nobody's too young to lead and nobody's too old to learn. So when we talk about leadership, it's not just about, prime ministers and cabinet ministers and members of parliament. You can lead in your local communities. You can lead in your respective schools, universities. If you are still an undergraduate, you can lead in different informal spaces.
What I love about India is I say you can just throw the camera in the air and it's going to take a very interesting picture because there's just so much richness and diversity around. I wonder if I could just ask who here in the room is in India for the first time? Anybody? Wow, look at that. Okay, that's like a good percentage of the room. Fantastic. So again, welcome everybody. I think you're really, really going to experience that will stay with you for the rest of your lives for sure. And I really do see the difference, whereas the older people in the room tend to focus on the problems and the younger people tend to focus on the solutions. And what we need is clearly both, but we need more and more emphasis on the solutions. And I think that's exactly why we need young people at the table, absolutely for sure, but also designing the table, determining what does that table look like and who is there. And that really is the core spirit of this convening here today.
How do we rebuild trust, if necessary, on the United Nations as an institution that can enable every single person in the room, but also in the grassroots initiatives? Because probably young people in the grassroots initiatives are starting to see this polycrisis as a reason to just lock in hyper-local communities, and probably they will be lacking the global citizenship perspective in the near future.
This question on hyper-localization, I completely agree with you. But the first thing I normally would say is that, yes, the UN itself is an intergovernmental organization, okay? But funnily, if you look at the Charter of the UN, it says we the peoples. It didn't say we the countries or we the member states of the UN. This was something that was written in 1945. The thinking is that, yes, the UN is member state driven, is an intergovernmental process, but these governments, the 194 entities that are member states of the UN, in terms of building policies at the local level, at the national level, the whole idea of what we call the Westphalian concept of statehood shouldn't be a barrier, okay? Shouldn't be a barrier to building those processes. Yes, the international system is built, that way for more than 400 years now. International relations, not just about the UN, is built on interstate relationship. Only countries can enter into treaties and agreements and those kind of things. So in that Westphalian system, if I might use that expression, it shouldn't be an impediment to working for peoples. What's the essence of government everywhere in the world? Is it not to promote policies that actually help address the basic problems, whether it's healthcare, education, housing, food? That's what governments are in place to do. So I agree that when we succumb to the temptation of hyper-localization, it destroys the trust that we have in the United Nations. So this is a work in progress, and I think that there are some countries that have gotten it right.
I'm glad I'm here with you all. I thank you, the organizer, for the opportunity, and I want to thank Dr. Obi and Dr. Shombi for great speeches. I have a short comment. I agree that the youth is the future, but as young leader in Angola, you are the present. Thank you.
The youth being the present, I can't agree more from my colleague from Angola. In fact, I say it all the time. When people say, oh, you're the leaders of tomorrow, I say, no. You're the leaders of today. So I agree with you on that, and thanks for raising that.
How actually the youth can participate in the global movement that really can change the world and also can lead to having the decision-making process like that.
The very fact that we live in a phygital world. I mean, let's not get too carried away. Most of life is still in the physical world, but because the digital world has become so much more important this actually brings challenges and brings a whole lot of opportunities precisely for youth. Young people have a very strong platform through all kinds of, social media and different digital tools. And now AI is obviously rapidly changing that space as well. There's a great opportunity there. And that's why you, young people, as a sort of an army for positive change through social and emotional learning are so important. You really can be out there in ways that we, the older generation, cannot. And I think you've seen that. You see this in politics. Those who are better able to engage in the new media, the new spaces, podcasts, whatever it is, you name it, are being much more effective and successful. So bringing the two together, actions at the local level, but using the power of communications, of especially digital platforms, to amplify that message in a global citizenship kind of way. This is the formula that I think that we need. We do have very important platforms like the EcoSoc Youth Forum. We have the new office of the Undersecretary General for Youth. He's bringing a new spirit and new dynamism into really concrete ways in which we can practice what we preach, so to speak. We've got lots of different kinds of advisory groups. Here in India, for example, we're in the process of working with government on the voluntary national review of the SDGs, which will be presented at the high-level political forum this summer. And we worked with government, with NITI Aayog, with different line ministries to ensure really robust consultations with young people. In my travel across the country, the truly, truly new area of exciting potential is investing in youth innovation and enterprise and startups. And because the technology coming out of the minds of young people now is game-changing.